Record. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Coming at you live. We got Sam Wilson Moses and Kyle Jordan talking about Resistance Radio.
Yeah.
We picked Resistance Radio. We thought it looked kind of cool. I don't know if you have a better answer than that or a better reason than that. My first impression was I wasn't really sure if this one was going to work because you go to the Resistance Radio website and at first glance there's really very little there. There aren't really widgets. There's not much to play with. I mean, the last one that I did was the Syria one, which had a lot of different things to play with, and this one at first glance at least doesn't. So I thought that it was going to be a pretty limited thing, and we weren't actually going to have that much to talk about.
Yeah, and I think because I did the last discussion I did was over the NSA files decoded, which presented very similarly. Like the initial splash page, whenever you load that, it's bare. It's just got the name of the title, nice little graphic about the NSA Eagle, and that's pretty much it. And then as you scroll down, it really unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what was most interesting about Resistance Radio is how everything unfolds in a very holistic way, you could say. Like everything's connected. Nothing is really completely separate. Like once you start looking at the radio itself, like if you look at it on a web browser, it's just like a desktop radio, which is cool. Yeah. And then you're like, wait, that's German on there. You see that some things are switched around. You see that things look a little different. But then when you actually open it with it's really interesting when you open it with a cell phone.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't even done
that. It's a pocket radio.
Oh, weird. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's made by a different company. So this is Taiko Regio, which is a Japanese radio manufacturer in this universe. Uh-huh. And then in the other one, you see it, and it's what's the name on the?
I just took down the note that it says "Made in Germany" on it.
Yeah, it says "Made in Germany," and then there's one of the and then you actually get into besides the visuals of it, the radio broadcasts themselves are just awesome.
Yeah, and wait, just to take a step back in case anybody for some reason is watching this who doesn't actually know what this is.
Yeah.
What Resistance Radio is put out by. It took me a second to figure out what it was, but it's put out by Amazon. So you go to the splash page, and it's just like a picture of an old school transistor radio, and it's playing. There are DJs and there's music that's playing. And poking around a little bit, what we figured out is that it's actually it's sort of a tie-in to a TV show on Amazon. The TV show is called The Man in the High Castle, and it's like an alternate history in which the Nazis won World War II. They bombed DC, killed President Roosevelt, and then the U.S. has been split in half between the Japanese and the Germans. And so there are 3 radio stations on this radio, and they're all broadcasting from like the neutral zone, which is it's from the Rock Mountains, which I assume is the Rocky Mountains.
Oh, yeah.
So the shows that they have are sort of a mix of music and talking. I'm sure there's a more official radio term for that. So they all sort of help to build this universe for this TV show, which is also based on a Philip K. Dick novel. So I'm sure we should talk about this later in the thing, but I think that this really plays in really well with the class when it comes to like transmedia and multimodality.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this whole thing is just building this universe that you wouldn't see otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. And the universe itself is, the classic, it really is not a huge demarcation from the classic, what if the Nazis would have won the war? What if the Axis powers would have won the war? But just how instead of, looking at exactly what would happen if the Nazis had discovered the, atom bomb first and then going from there, they take a step back and they go 17 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these radio DJs, they're not telling stories that are necessarily like the big ideas of, like, they key into certain big ideas, but at the same time, they're telling, a lot of them are telling really intimate stories about themselves and their take on this universe and how things have been changed. And I mean, one of them, Miss Evangeline, or yeah, hers was just awesome because, I mean, she told her story of when she was 15 and how when she was a kid, she would always see her mom singing at these nightclubs and everything. And then she decided that she wanted to be a singer. So she went through the story about how she was kind of distancing herself from her mom and trying to grow up as a person and be a singer like her mother. But then she comes home and the first day she goes to do a job interview to try and audition to be a singer, that's when the Nazis drop the bomb. Mm-hmm. And then you get that take of like, oh man, these really intricate stories are being fundamentally changed by this greater meta narrative that's taking over this whole story, which is a really interesting way to do it. Yeah. It reminds me of the World War Z book, not the Brad Pitt movie that didn't have anything to do with the book. The book is really awesome because it's these tiny little vignettes of each of the characters dealing with basically, the end of the world and a zombie apocalypse. But then each of these characters are really grounded and realistic and all these kind of interesting takes on like, well, what would happen if suddenly the dead rose and people had to deal with that. And it was it's reminding me of this, or it's reminding me of World War Z, the Resistance Radio, is because it's, okay, well, what are short, individual, personalized stories? What do they look like in a world where this happens?
Interesting.
Yeah, which
I wonder, I assume you haven't watched this show at all?
No, so my brother is like a huge fan of it, and he's been trying to get me to watch it for years. Okay. And it's just, I didn't want to because I was like, man, it's just another oh man, what if the bombs had dropped differently? And
right.
When you're studying history and stuff, you get so many of those drunken conversations.
You'll love this.
Right? Yeah. There was definitely a history study group where the first half we would, actually do our studying and our work on World War II. And then the second half was like, all right, well, we cracked open the six-pack. So, you know what? What if the Yamamoto hadn't been at this battle and had survived and been at this battle and all these different things? And I just got bored of it. I got bored of listening to those stories. But this, just the way that Resistance Radio, this app, this website, has drawn me in. It's like, man, I gotta go back and watch these.
Yeah, well, so that was kind of what I was thinking. So, two things on that. One, I wonder. You were just talking about the fact that these are just these quick little snapshots of people's lives, and I wonder if those people are characters in the show at all, or if these are just like complete one-offs where this is just a separate thing that they want to use to help continue building the universe. And two, listening to this, I'm like, I had seen ads for the show and I was not really that drawn to it. But listening to this, they're accomplishing their goals. It's pretty dope.
Yeah. And I really like how much, of the three radio DJs, I'm pretty sure I heard all three, but I couldn't remember everybody's names. But Miss Evangeline is an African-American woman who was 15 when the war ended and America lost. And then so for the last 17 years or 7 years, I forget.
17.
Yeah, 17 years. She's been living under Nazi rule and how different that is for America. At one point, she really talks about how, she was escaping and they were trying to escape to New Orleans to get a boat south. And then they got captured and were taken into basically internment camps. And the idea that she really tried to get across was like, look, this wasn't done by the brown shirts from Nazi Germany. This was done by Americans in the name of the Nazis so they could stay safe.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of so I didn't realize there were 3 DJs, so I mostly just listened to the one that it started on, and then like just before we started this, I realized there were other ones. I heard a little bit less of. I heard mostly the Jake something or other.
Is that the guy? Is that the conspiracy theorist?
No, he's like the comedian.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and he did like Abraham Lincoln asking questions to the modern person about
right. He like does impressions and whatever.
Yeah, that guy's great.
But then there's the dude Jake. Mm-hmm. There's a conspiracy theorist, ex-military guy, and then Miss Evangeline. And
which I'm pretty sure the conspiracy theorist guy, I think he might be Hispanic too, because I want to say he was. But he said something. He keeps he throws a lot of. It sounds like he's from the West. He's from like the Southwest. He throws in a lot of Spanish slang a lot of the time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's really interesting to think about. Okay, well, how would if the Japanese are taking over the entire West Coast? How would they treat Hispanic people?
Yeah.
Because the Japanese didn't have to deal with that ever. So it's very interesting, like how this meta narrative can put some new light on some old standing racial issues and stuff. So I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I would love to talk about that also just before we get off the like sort of
right
totally setup thing. I do want to say that the music in this is just awesome. So I did a little bit of research into the soundtrack for this, and this is actually a soundtrack that's for sale. And the pitch on it is classic 1960s songs reimagined by Sam Cohen and Danger Mouse. I don't know who Sam Cohen is, but Danger Mouse is awesome.
Danger Mouse is great.
And so the soundtrack is available. NPR did a story on it. It's just all covers. It's got Sharon Van Etten, Beck, some guy from MGMT, Benjamin Booker, Angel Olsen, The Shins. It's got like a bunch of really great artists performing like kind of dark covers of 60 songs. So, I mean, that's just another way that this whole, is, I mean, I, as somebody who like struggles in my relationship with capitalism as a whole, I'm like, I don't want to celebrate this too much, but like, man, this is effective capitalism. They have they have a TV show that's based off a book. They make money off the TV show. They make this little widget online that's pretty fun to play with, and then they make a soundtrack with all these awesome artists that I love. They've got me. They've got you hooked. They've created this universe that even if I don't want to watch I don't know if it's a stupid TV show, but even if I don't want to watch this TV show, they've created an awesome universe that's like, you've created enough things that I want to be a part of this. So, tip of the hat to you, the capitalists at Amazon. You have a compelling thing.
I can't wait till I can get my Prime citizenship card.
From President Jeff Bezos or however.
Yeah, dictator Jeff Bezos. I'm sorry.
I can't wait till his face is on our dollar bills.
He wouldn't be put on the dollar bill. Let's be real. He's gonna be on the 1,000 for
That's
sure.
Probably true. That's probably true. Well, actually, his face is gonna be on a Bitcoin.
But I think one way that we could kind of tie this back to our practice and really getting interesting ideas for our pedagogy when we're teachers is how we could use this idea to where, how could we create something that at face value seems very simple and very direct, and the kids aren't going to have a lot of time to play around in it. How could we then change that to where it's like, oh, that's just a facade. Here's everything else that's behind it and below it and above it, and try and bring them in to where they can actually get interested in history, specifically for us. So I had a thought of, this is a monumental project. There was a part of me that was like, man, it'd be cool to try and almost crowdsource this, to where if we set up some kind of social media, or just like a Facebook group or something, to where it's like, hey, if you find anything that is a primary source from American history, doesn't matter the time period, like we can put tags on things, but if there was just a way to accumulate good sources that were done holistically and weren't just only pulled from like archived databases, because there's definitely been stuff that I found in like my grandparents' house that like I think it's like, oh man, this would be a cool, like this was my grandfather's like draft order from Vietnam. Like throw up a scan of that and like allow people to not only pull their own, the great sources that we have, like the Gettysburg Address and Uncle Tom's Cabin and all the classic sources you hear about certain eras and things like that. If there was a way to like get people to pull family history or family documents and try and use those as source records, I think like you could find a pretty interesting avenue to try and go down to gather these resources. And then you need just one person to work on basically kind of shaping almost this meta narrative about a place or an area or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a very pie in the sky idea, but I think it's something that like we need to practice those. We need to practice creating those pie in the sky ideas so we can boil down to functioning, worthwhile things to make for our classroom.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean that's certainly ambitious, but I could certainly see something like that if you could, I mean, you got a class of 30 kids doing a history class or anthropology class or something like that. You could certainly do something. Well, it would be challenging, but you could do something where you ask students to bring in, like family documents or whatever, and like build a narrative from that. Kind of related to that, one thing that I thought would be a cool thing to draw from this to bring into the classroom is the idea of if you do a good job of teaching history or anthropology or sociology or whatever, you're going to be focusing a lot on themes, and students should be coming out of the class with an idea of, like themes of how power structures are maintained, or themes of I don't know, whatever else. Let's go how power structures are maintained. And then you could ask them to create something like this that, obviously not like a whole TV show and a radio and a soundtrack and all that, but you could ask students to create like the template or the sort of skeleton of an alternate history that plays off those themes that they learned through like the true history,
Yeah.
Again, a very ambitious idea, but
I think that's a really cool idea, because you could have it to where, and then there will also be like, just like we have challenges in this class, you could be like, all right, well, here's the challenges. We're gonna produce some media from a time period, and there's kids have to complete one big challenge and one little challenge, and like a big challenge could be like actually producing a 30-minute radio show where it's like, you pick music from the time period, you talk about events that have happened recently.
I like that a lot.
Like that would be a big one. And then a small one would be like, you make a 20-second radio ad for a time period specific item.
Yeah.
And like you can make it as goofy or as fun as you want, but like make it to where it's actually a time period specific thing. So like make an ad for asbestos. And it's like something that is completely separate from like how we view that very, very hazardous material. But back then they thought it could be a miracle changing building material because it doesn't burn. It doesn't all these. So like, I think that you could get a variety, like just like we do challenges, make it to where it's like, oh yeah, kids, you're going to work to create all of these things. Everybody can make something different. Or if, a bunch of people want to do the same thing, that's fine. We'll make it to where it's a block of radio, and then everybody can go and listen and see what everyone else does and things.
Right.
And
yeah, I really like the idea.
Cool to have like a gallery walk too.
Yeah, I really like the idea of doing a 30-minute radio show because that could be a summative assessment that you're like working on throughout the semester, and you could be working in like groups of 4. You have a song, an interview, a news story, like 3 ads. There's like a whole bunch of different things you can do with that. I really like that idea.
You could or you could have it to be it's like, all right, so there's a 30-minute radio show, and I only want 20 minutes of songs, right? So you're only going to really take maybe 8 or 9 songs, but like make it to you could even put parameters where like, yeah, it's not just a radio show about anything, it's a radio show about the 60s, and you have to have a song from like every kind of every time period and like try and show how the music changed.
Yeah, and you have to have your DJ on there talking about the song and like why this song is.
Yeah, why it matters. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then like to have that
goes out to everybody out there protesting it, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah. Have it to where they explain like, oh yeah, this is a monumental event which led to a massive amount of unrest in the country. This is a song that came out of it.
Yeah, I dig that.
That'd be really fun.
I think our time parameters are 15 to 20 minutes, and we're about 20 minutes now. So I don't want to run over. Sorry, Brad. Yeah, anything that we missed that we want to make sure we touch on before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it. I think it's really great. I really, this opened my eyes to a bunch of potential lessons and activities. Yeah. And I'm just really glad we got to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little bit irritated because now I want to watch this show that I have absolutely no time to watch.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to have to deal with that. Thanks. But the soundtrack is dope. I'll certainly continue to listen to that. If anybody is watching this who hasn't listened to it already, like highly recommend looking that soundtrack up. And yeah, like lots of cool possible lesson planning ideas. So overall, I thought this was a really cool experience.
All right. I got to head out, so I'll see you later, Sam. And to everybody who's watching us, appreciate the views.
Later, y'all.
All right, bye.